In the Rance series, those born on the continent's worth is usually dictated by the skill level they have assigned to them when they are created. Though, during the events of Sengoku Rance, those with skills that might not have landed them in positions of power find themselves thrust into a form of leadership, such as Hara, the cowardly commander, or Imagawa Yoshimoto, who is just a fucking freak. Though the person who fits the mold the best of being thrust into a role they were not ready to fill is that of Akashi Kazemaru, the last boy soldier. Akashi Kazemaru is a recruitable leader unit and the reluctant head of the Akashi clan during the events of Sengoku Rance. He was the last of 4 sons and never believed he'd have to take a position of power until his family was wiped out by the Mori clan, thrusting him into the role that he now plays. And through this position, he uncovers not only a lot about his father and his secret projects, but experiences the harshness of war firsthand. And much like most Rance characters, especially Sengoku, Kazemaru is flush with references found throughout his character, from his name to his role in the game, so let's discuss the influences of Kazemaru's character and the meanings behind his name and design. Starting first, Akashi Kazemaru is a take on the real-life historical figure Akashi Takanori, one of the retainers for the daimyo of the Baizen province, Yukaita Naoe, but he would later take up the role as a military advisor for Naoe's son, Hidei, during the Sengoku Jidai. Takanori partook in 2 major battles during the events of this Sengoku era, these being the battles of Sekigahara, which saw the end of the family line that he'd been protecting his whole life, and then he would return during the siege of Osaka to avenge his fallen clan, where it is said that he battled Tokugawa until the Osaka castle fell, later escaping the siege with his life. Post the castle siege, Takanori would find himself hunted by Tokugawa's men, but he would escape capture and retire from not only war but history itself, never taking his own life due to his own Christian beliefs. And that's the last we know about Akashi Takanori. Now, Kazemaru reflects his real-life samurai influence in quite a few ways, starting first, of course, with his age. Kazemaru was 14 during the events of Sengoku Rance, which follows an interpretation of the rise and fall of Oda Nobunaga. And in real life, Takanori, the samurai that was part of the Sengoku Jidai, would have been only 14 to 16 years old around the reign of Nobunaga, thus making sense why Kazemaru is so young and influenced by this one guy. Though this isn't the only reason he's specifically 14 years old, but we'll discuss that in more detail in a moment. We also see that Takanori's quest for revenge is also represented quite well in Kazemaru's story and told pretty interestingly through the events of Sengoku Rance, through the battles against Mori Mononari. As leading into the events of Sengoku Rance, Mori challenged the strongest warriors of the Akashi clan to a one-on-one battle, ultimately wiping them out and taking their land for himself. And when you look at the landmass that they took and compare it to the real-life map of the Sengoku Jidai, you can make the inference that this is where the Yukaita clan was located. And if you remember, the Yukaita's clan's destruction is what led Akashi Takanori to take up his sword in revenge against Tokugawa. But now you just replace Tokugawa with Mori Motonari. And through the death of all the other rightful inheritors, the fate of the Akashi clan is left in the hands of this timid, scared child leader, Kazemaru. And with him being thrust into this position, one he never thought he'd have to find himself in, we see the effects of something like this on a child over the events of this war. Having suffered tragedy after tragedy in rapid succession, from the death of his family to his dwindling army of children and retired veterans, to even his time alone off the battlefield being lonely due to him having no one to share it with, Kazemaru finds himself growing quieter and more depressed as this war continues, but it is through this dark place he ends up in that he finds his light. As, while timid and scared, Kazemaru is surprisingly steadfast in his goals and beliefs, and shows great determination in the face of overwhelming odds, refusing to surrender his region to anyone and saying he would rather fight to his end than give up his clan, which is a character trait that we actually learn predates the events of Sengoku Rance, as he receives a note from his father when he decides to stand up for his nation and fight to the end, that assumes not only that he would do this, but his father also leaves him a gift to try to accomplish this goal, this being the Akashi clan's secret weapon, the Nuhei. Nuhei are living weapons which take the form of a human female, and they are complete and total combat monsters, as they lack any form of self-preservation and focus solely on locating and eliminating purely commander units in order to win a war, ignoring any and all ground troops as they make a mad dash through any fatal wounds they might receive with their single-minded goal of eliminating the opposing army's commanders. This can completely obliterate an army tactically, along with shattering any army's morale, leaving any encounter with them in-game to be an instant loss for you. Though to mitigate their overwhelming power, However, new hides aren't easy to make, as to produce them, you need to repeatedly refine a concentration of 365 different types of animals, plants, and minerals for an extended period of time, making them an incredibly limited resource but an extremely powerful weapon. And with this all being said, they are seemingly, along with Kasimaru, all an Evangelion reference, as the standard new hide design has the same color scheme, design, and mentality as Rei Ayanami from Evangelion, even copying her down to only knowing how to take orders, along with all of her clones dying in a similar way to Rei's clones, with the first one dying off screen similar to Rei 1, the second one blowing herself up like Rei 2, and the third Rei is the first one we see help comfort Kasimaru in a similar way to the end of Evangelion, Giant Rei, especially since both end up being torn apart by the end of their lives. Along with this, Kasimaru is 14 years old during the events of Sengoku Rance. To be an Eva pilot in the universe of Evangelion, you need to be 14 years old. And the only reason I can think that Kasimaru would have all these Evangelion references within his character is due to the connection to his own real-life counterpart having real-life Christian beliefs, since Evangelion is so closely tied with Christian imagery in Japan. Now, when Kasimaru recruits the Nuheis, it's out of desperation to win the war, and he is ignorant of their fighting styles given his young age and inexperience. He doesn't know that they basically throw their lives away when they fight, and his vassals don't help him much here either, never telling him of the fate of the Nuheis, only telling him that they succeeded in their mission. This ignorance was bliss for Kasimaru for a while, as he felt his confidence in himself growing as both a leader and a person, thinking that these Nuheis will successfully lead his nation to great strength. Though, this is Rance, and suffering is inevitable, as during the third event involving war with the Akashi clan, Kasimaru will sneak away from his commander tent in order to watch the battlefield from afar, quenching his curiosity in how the Nuheis fight, as he's only heard great things. What he sees is one of the longest and brutalest deaths of Yuga, the Nuhei that Kasimaru had grown the closest to and basically considered family at that point, as he used her as a coping mechanism to get over his loneliness. This shatters Kasimaru's confidence, as in that moment he abandons any idea of the Akashi clan fighting to the death and decides that he wants to end this war with the least amount of bloodshed, thinking to himself that no one should have to die for his cause. And after making this decision, Kasimaru heads off to the lab where the final Nuhei rests, opening the first casket that he saw, the one containing the unique Nuhei, Hibachi. And with that being said, I want to discuss the naming themes that I noticed when looking at the Nuheis, which most of them have a bath, hot spring, or sauna related themed name, given the lab was designed to look like a bathhouse. You have Yuga, which means hot water bath, Nawatori, which part of her name means to wash part of the body, and then Hibachi, which means fireball or room heating device, but Hibachi has a secondary meaning that coincides with Kasimaru, but we'll get into that when we discuss Kasimaru's design. Hibachi is also the only Nuhei we see in-universe and in canon with a unique design, but that's not the only thing unique about her, as after being awoken, Kasimaru gives Hibachi one order: to live. He never wanted to see another person die, especially not another Nuhei, and while confused at first, Hibachi does follow this order, running away and hiding as Oda's army, led by Rance, invades Akashi's territory and finally conquers it. And in the final moments, Emperor Kasimaru waits in his quarters ready to end his life, thinking back to his family and the Nuhei that he freed, and as he goes to thrust the dagger into his stomach, Rance catches his hand, asking him if he truly wanted to die. Kasimaru looks up to this man and answers honestly that he does, and this causes Rance to take him in alive, telling his soldiers to capture Kasimaru and making sure that he couldn't harm himself. Though, don't get confused, this wasn't out of pity or some sort of respect for Kasimaru, he just wanted to stop him from, quote-unquote, trying to be cool, as Rance wanted to see someone live in shame for the rest of their lives, as he thought it was funny. And after imprisoning Kasimaru like any other prisoner, you can recruit him, adding him to Rance's army. And Rance does this because he finds it funny to force a guy who wanted to die to work for him. Rance may never be the best person, but sometimes he accidentally ends up doing good. Along with this, during the events of the game, Rance can track down, and canonically does track down, Hibachi, with a search event in Kasimaru's former territory. Her choosing to be captured because it seemed like the most efficient way to fulfill her final order as to live. As if she were to fight against her captors, there was a likely chance that she would end up dying. And if you release Kasimaru from prison, capture Hibachi, and then boost Kasimaru's relation with Rance up to trust, you unlock a pretty humorous scene in which Kasimaru pesters Rance for Hibachi, which brings Rance to his breaking point, as Rance gives Kasimaru back Hibachi in an attempt to get him to stop pestering him about her, making her one of the few women that Rance has actually stopped pursuing for sex.
Kazemaru's next event is a turning point for his character both in terms of his arc as well as in gameplay, which I'm here for. At 3 Trust, Kazemaru will have an event in which Hibachi swears to protect him, becoming his sub-commander. This gives him a +2 to all stats below 7, so it'd be beneficial to do this event after you boosted Kazemaru's space stats with the textbook items you get during the course of the game. So Kazemaru with a full book investment is a samurai unit with a level cap of 40, 8 in offensive stats, 4 actions, 2 search, 1 negotiation, and 1 construction. If you're playing in certain routes and acquire any of the Imperial Regalia, you give it to him, you can bump his 8s in offensive stats to the cap of 9. But if you plan on bumping him another way, such as the tier 2 textbooks or more affection bonuses, you have the option of the Mysterious Murasama, which boosts damage done by 20%, similar to Chaos and Nikao. Without factoring in equipment, this boost can put Kazemaru above some of the physically strongest units, Morimotonari, Masamune, and Noir, though he does fall short of matching Shimazu Kazuhisa, who is exclusive to the Ran route and Kill the Monkey route. Despite these impressive stats, even first-time players will likely be able to see that he is by no means the definitive best warrior unit, not offering much beyond a big stat line. He doesn't have Kenshin's utility, Mori's dungeon mulching power, or any flashy special moves like Kentaro-kun Slash or Commander Charge. It's also worth considering what's being done to get Kazemaru to his full potential, needing 4 attack textbooks, 2 defense, intelligence, and speed textbooks, 10 affection points, 3 turn flags, and 1 of the gourds breaking, not to mention any equips you give to him, though the Murasame can be removed. While textbooks are dependent on what characters you plan to use, and Kazemaru does make the best use of them outside of Maeda Keiji and Gracia, the gourd and turn investment can be a bit much when playing higher difficulties or speedrunning. But if you're doing either of those, you probably dropped him at the start of my segment when I said he was a samurai unit. In casual playthroughs, Kazemaru can show his potential and win more than his fair share of battles, but when the enemy scaling gets rough and beating enemies conventionally stops being an option, Kazemaru unfortunately loses his luster. While his growth in the main campaign is his primary selling point, this potential is not translated well at all in free-for-all mode. In free-for-all mode, when playing as the Akashi House, and only as the Akashi House, once every 4 turns, you may spend an action to raise a random combat stat of Kazemaru by 1, up to a cap of 7, or increase troop count by 50. First of all, the faction restriction means that capturing him as any other house may as well be colorful looking generic, since he'll be stuck at his poorer starting stats. But even if he was capable of growth, over the course of 56 turns from when you would have recruited him, he may eventually reach the impressive stat line of having 1 more speed than Kenshin and none of the utility. I have no idea why they cap it at 7 when he can reach 8 in the story, and I don't know why they refuse to give him his Hibachi passive either, as quick to fall off as it is. It's not like Hibachi is deactivated either, as it's because of Hibachi that he's even conquering Japan in the first place.
Now let's see how Kazemaru checks out grade-wise. Starting out first with a 1 in accessibility, as he's an overall weak warrior unit out of the box for when you get him in the game, with a cumbersome recruitment process that takes more flag actions than it should. Versatility gets a 2. While he's a samurai unit, his unique passive lets him get away with taking less damaging secondary abilities like Shouting Charge or Light Attack. He has an investment of 4 as he competes for books with 4 other characters and 2 of them are semi-generics and you get a unit that's on par with the endgame Masamune. Along with this, he falls off early at 1. He's a samurai unit, that's all I should have to say, but outside of the least efficient boss cheese with his Hibachi charge, he was never going to rank highly here. And finally at 3 in returns, you get 5 points of satisfaction from Hibachi's H scene, as well as the ability to capture and recruit Nogiku from the Yokai army during the endgame. Wait a minute, this isn't Yu-Gi-Oh! I haven't even played this game, what the fuck?
And then you have Kazemaru's own character clear, which is a scene between him, Hibachi, and Rance, which reveals that the two, Kazemaru and Hibachi, have finally fully hooked up, with Rance feeling sort of like Kazemaru's wingman, not only being the one to bring the two back together, but also leaving behind some sort of reference material for Hibachi to learn from. Now this event triggers only after you've activated the first event, where you trigger Hibachi as Kazemaru's own sub-commander. You can get it at Trust 6, but I recommend waiting until Trust 7 with Kazemaru to actually actually activate it, as not only do you get his character clear, but you also get to upgrade him one more time. It's basically getting two things done at once. And after the events of Sengoku Rance, Kazemaru's character actually stops being majorly important to the series. Canonically, both him and Hibachi were saved by Rance during the events of Sengoku, and he finds himself retiring at the end, befriending characters like Kohime, as they're around the same age and have both suffered similar tragedies by the end of the events of Sengoku. With us even seeing little hints at this with start of turn events like when they are bonding and Hibachi gets a little bit jealous of Kohime. Also, like Ko, Kazemaru dons armor in memories of those that he's lost, with his standard Akashi warrior armor being mixed with wooden tombstones on his back to honor the fallen family members such as his father and his brothers. Along with this, his name is important to his design, with the creators saying they wanted to give him a strange look, like a peaceful wind on a battlefield and the last boy soldier. Thus, he was given the name Kazemaru, which translates to perfect wind, which also can be seen in reflecting his attack sprite, in which he swings his sword with the grace of the wind. Also, he has a small octopus design on his helmet due to the real-life Akashi's region's famous mochi dish, which uses octopus, which is the reason why him and Hibachi are destined to be together, as Hibachi means fireball, which is a device you can use to make this octopus mochi. And even though he is surprisingly talented with a sword, Kazemaru was never planned to be a fighter. In fact, he only has skill levels in medicine, specifically medical treatment level 1, and this is partly reflected in his design, as the kimono that he wears under his armor are pure white like that of a doctor's coat. And speaking of doctors, another character in the series who has level 1 medical treatment is Daniel Safety, a professional doctor, meaning that Kazemaru has the capability of becoming not only as skilled as Daniel Safety in medical treatment, but given that his level cap is one level higher, he can go beyond what Daniel could. And we learn from series artist Orion that Kazemaru becomes so well trained as a doctor that he's able to later recreate his late wife, as 10 years after the events of Sengoku, Hibachi will pass away due to her limited lifespan that Nuheis have, and Kazemaru dedicates the rest of his life from this point on to bring her back, succeeding only when he was an old man, and the two finish out the rest of their days together in peace and harmony. Though this is all the fate of Kazemaru in canon. Outside of canon, he has some interesting and rather humorous events, such as being part of a celebration scene in Kojika's recruitment event where he finally avenges his family and celebrates by drinking. Or during the moment which Rance stops him from taking his own life, you have an option to glue a mustache onto him, resulting in Kazemaru fleeing in embarrassment as he can't remove the mustache due to the super sticky glue. This segment seems to be a reference to two things, both Sexy Commander Gaiden, with the main character being someone who would knock out his enemies and draw mustaches on their face meant to embarrass them, along with fitting with Kazemaru's historical influences in Takanori, as after being defeated in the final battle, he flees from his final defeat and is never seen again. And now with that all being said and done, I'd like to thank both Flair and Rata for helping me with this video. Especially Flair, who is a person who not only got me into the Rance series, but is someone I can go to fact check things or bounce ideas off of when making videos like this. So if you want to see more of their stuff, you can head on over to either Fither, where Flair co-hosts and talks about an assortment of things from SMT, JoJo, and Rance of course, to his own main channel where he makes really good musical mixes. And then you have Rata from Rank 10 Yu-Gi-Oh! Who makes some of the best Yu-Gi-Oh! Content on YouTube. As someone who hasn't been caught up with Yu-Gi-Oh! In a while, I find I can sit down and watch Rata's videos and still be thoroughly entertained by everything that he does. In fact, I find myself rewatching Archetype Archives when I'm working on videos like this. So if you're interested at all in either of these two's content, I'd recommend you go out and give them a watch. And if you enjoyed this video and want to see more videos like it in the future, I have a Patreon at patreon.com/MediNotTheBadGuy. And if you want to give Sengoku Rance a try, well, you can do so by picking up a copy at Manga Gamer's website, though you have to be 18 years or older to play it, and I especially don't recommend anyone under the age of 18 plays this game.